Okay, hi everyone. If anyone is watching this, we're talking about what we're doing in class this week. Jay and I, Rose just joined, and David is a TA for Professor Berg, and is sort of quietly listening in. And we've been talking about Jay and I have been talking about just how Sinatra a homework sort of last week. We gave it to our class and what's upcoming. And I described that I give a test and I have people work through the beginning of the Hartle tutorial, which I modify back to GitHub. So the other thing that I do after modifying it to GitHub is I have students do commits at particular times, and then I have a little sort of grade scraper, so to speak. I have something that goes into their GitHub repository and checks that they've done the commits associated with the work. It's mainly just a way for me to automatically sort of check off that people have done the work. If you have a small class, you know, you can either say like do this because it'll be helpful for you, or whatever. So that's just what I do. And then following up on that, what I do next week before I give them the Rails assignment is I have them do what I call the chapter 4 walkthrough, which chapter 4 is basically having them build the Rotten Potatoes app from scratch. I think, yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's from like creating a new directory and doing a Rails new, like literally from scratch.
Right.
And I find, again, most students don't take it too seriously and so forth, but at least some subset of people will, the point is reading the book, trying things out, and really, getting a little bit of familiarity around and working their way around the Rails framework and ecosystem. The point of that, between the Hartle tutorial and working through chapter 4, that does put them in better position to tackle the Rails assignment, because when things aren't working and so forth, they maybe have seen some of these messages and they know how to poke around in theory. The other thing that I emphasize is use of the debugger, is that I'll tell them, go into one of the controller methods, and for the first line, just put a debugger statement and stop the Rails machinery. And then they can see what's coming in from, what's being sort of passed in the environment. Look at the session, look at the parms, not the parms, what is that called? Am I already
hash and the session hash?
Yeah.
Params and session hash, yeah.
And then that gives them an idea like what's being passed in, because sometimes what they have to do is they have to create things to pass into that hash.
Yeah.
So, etc. So that's my 2 cents on what I've done over the last few years.
Okay. I do have access to your Google Drive, so I've seen your changes to the Hartle tutorial.
Right.
And he's still using Bitbucket. Do you know?
I would go on the thing that I would do is go onto the internet and just you search for Hartle tutorial, assuming I spelled it right, and it comes right up. Yeah. In fact, some of the links in that document, because we only did this quickly. If you click some of the links in that Google Drive doc, they'll go right to the real tutorial. And I tell anyone is that it's fine to look at that. There's nothing in there that substantively that we've changed. It's just for those couple of reasons.
Okay. Back to, so why do you give the test first
Because the
Give a
test is
test.
on chapters 1, 2, and 3. The test is
Oh.
pre Rails.
Mhm.
Okay.
And there's a time that for our in our university, we're supposed to give them some like grade next week to say if they're not doing well. So I try. That's why I schedule a test this time, and that's a fine. You know, it's like I'll have a test like the first third of the semester. It's not the test that I give them is not very good in the sense that it does not really well segregate or classify people based on what I would like to think of their real sort of expertise and working knowledge. And I've tried different things, but some of the students who are like whizzes with the programming don't do particularly well on the test, and some of the people that can program out of their way out of a paper bag somehow sort of can study and know how to like answer these kinds of multiple choice questions.
Theoretically, they know how to program. Theoretically.
Yeah. So this is more on the programming on Ruby, or more on the
it's that you sound like my students. Like, what am I going to be tested on? And I'll give them, I basically will take topics from chapter 1, 2, and 3, at least the first half of chapter 2, up through the model view controller. So I ask them some stuff on software engineering and that kind of stuff, and then I'll ask them. My intent was to ask them questions that they could answer if they really were actively doing the homeworks, as opposed to maybe just copying and getting the grade and moving on. Again, it doesn't work well, but that's my theory. So I'll have some questions on regular expressions.
Mhm.
If at all you're interested in using it, I can give you either access to my Dropbox. Just give me a Dropbox. Do you have a Dropbox account?
I have one that's full, but I could.
Okay. And if you want, I mean, just send a follow up if it's just that file. I can send you the file or a link. Actually, I could probably send you a link to the folder that, and then you can just download what you want.
Okay, I may just do a new Dropbox account with a different email.
Okay. If you do that, I'll give you a let me give you a referral.
Okay.
We can do that. Just remember that via email. I'll give you a referral name just to get a little bit more space if you really, unless you want to refer yourself. Maybe that's probably what you should do, is refer yourself and get yourself a little bit more space on the other account.
Okay, I don't know how to do that, but I'll check with you offline.
So yeah, we can talk and email after this is over.
Yeah.
So does that, that again, that's just what I do. It's a particular pacing that I have, that I came up with one semester, and just out of sort of inertia, or I haven't changed it for a few years, and it seems to work for me. It gives them sort of time to get their feet wet with Rails, because when I threw them right into the Rails assignment, and you can imagine the way the course was originally structured, it went straight from, okay, let's do this like intro Ruby stuff, and now let's like modify this complex Rails framework or Rails program. It was a big leap for students. So now we have like 4 weeks of prep work. And I don't know, Rose, if you're looking for advice, do you want to chime in to tell Jay if you do anything different?
Well, I do some of the things that you do, and I think it's pretty similar. Pretty similar. We just did we just finished the Rails chapter last week, so their homework is due today. I'll see how they do. A couple of them got a little stuck over the weekend, and then Actually, they were able to figure out what was going on. So hopefully everything's okay. I think they would have said something otherwise.
Okay. And Rose, you are using what technology? Cloud9, or what are the students using?
Yeah, C9. Cloud9.
Okay, and you're fine with that because you had like the legacy account and everything
Right.
is working just as it used to.
Right. And I'm kind of out of the loop as to what has happened since then.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have a computer all summer, so that was
Yeah.
very, very weird. Just beyond weird. Okay, like missing a limb. And then I was in and out of town constantly, so that
Okay.
didn't help.
Well, I think it's okay in the sense that whatever you missed was just sort of the drama leading up to the finale, and we'll get the finale over the next few months. But
Right.
we, you know, I was concerned about whether I could work with Cloud9 for my 150 students.
Exactly.
Because the legacy accounts I wasn't sure would accommodate. I had to create I would have to create new groups, and I wasn't sure that I could do that. Did you create a new group or new classroom or whatever they're called, education, or did you reuse an existing one?
So, I mean, right now I'm just reusing my team account. That's all I'm doing.
Right.
And I'm just kind of fearful that maybe I shouldn't be doing that
Yeah,
because
no, if it works, that's
there's
the
other
right
stuff
thing.
happening.
You know, in some ways, if it was partly because of that concern, and partly because partly because a lot of fear that I had that I moved to Codio, and it sounded like people were that's where things were going. I am sort of quite happy with Codio, more or less. I don't know how to, and I haven't done. Okay, so part of my happiness has to do with the fact that I haven't had to do much like learning or reading documentation or researching to get what little I need done. And
That's great.
And there is a tech support guy on the Slack channel now.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, because I mean, I came sort of back to the land of the living and found out that there was this thing going on with this new thing called Codio, and I haven't even had a chance to look at it, but it sounds, I mean, I'm hearing good things.
Yeah, it basically, so I'll summarize it. It basically does replace Cloud9. It does, once they get in there, it's like pretty much just like Cloud9 was. The only thing that we could do with Cloud9 was live share workspaces, which didn't always work 100% well. And in Codio, it's very easy for me to access someone's workspace so I can see the file. I can actually see changes they make sort of in real time, but it's not like we are sharing the same terminal.
I see.
So you'd have to, either we'd have to figure out how to, I don't know if Codio supports that, but if they do, I just have to look that up, or else you'd have to do a screen share. But for me, that's working well enough now. And the other issue with Codio is that it does cost, and we are used to with this class is getting everything for free.
Oh, it's okay.
So the Codio rep gave Jay and I and maybe some others. I don't know if David, do you know if you guys got anything with Codio, or are you still planning to use a virtual box? Anyway, what our Codio rep, I'm calling him a rep. I think the guy I spoke to was the CEO. He was talking about like what it might be like $50 a student per semester. And that to me is when I have an alternative, like even like the old virtual box, that's less, that's like a little bit pricey.
It sure is.
So but that does have to be resolved one way or another, because Armando and that group were talking about moving away from edX for the
Mhm.
AutoGraders, and where are they going to run the AutoGraders? They're talking about using Codio to run the AutoGraders,
I see.
and that's what Sam and some people are looking at. So I'm
Yeah.
assuming if they work out some deal with Codio working the AutoGraders, maybe we can get some deal with our students. But you know,
So currently they don't have a like a student tier for their services, because a lot
well,
of
it is that is their student tier. They are um, what they are. They seem to be focused on providing support for students. So if you're
Okay.
it's not like they're making money commercially and then the student thing they're giving away is a freebie. I think is that fair, Jay? Is from your sense?
So that is
Yeah,
their target.
You're
yeah.
right.
Their whole business model is selling to schools.
I see.
Right.
But
So if
$50 a student is astronomical.
well, I don't know.
Especially if they pay $10 for a textbook, but you know it's not unreasonable compared to other textbooks.
No, but I'm just saying on top of everything, it's astronomical.
Well, the thing is, our textbook is so cheap in a sense that I could say,
Exactly.
okay, it costs $50, you know, for supplies for this class. I would, if I have no problem with in some sense, I have no problem with the $50. But it's just that it's the alternatives. Like we could get something free or you know,
Yeah.
from AWS, we could get something free from VirtualBox. So
Right.
that's the issue.
Yeah, I think for my students, the price would be an issue.
Yeah. So so that remains to be seen, and I'm hopeful that that will get resolved. But you know, stuff is not moving fast. But next week, if Sam comes back next week, we'll at least be able to get a sense of the status. I don't remember getting a sense of like where things are going with this.
I think they had a meeting
On
with
Friday.
Codio on Friday, but
Right, but I think that was a
any results.
Right, I mean that's what actually I was reading that. There's some notes on that. Allow multiple. But that looked like more like a technical issue of getting the AutoGraders running on it than a administrative sort of deal and pricing issue. One other thing with Codio that I'll mention to you, Jay, is that it's looking more and more. I think we may be doing the same thing this way. That we're just using it. What I'll call the Cloud9 model is just creating one workspace and just adding all the assignments to it. Is that what you're doing? I assume.
I created one workspace at the beginning.
Yeah.
And the students, I think, are just using that same workspace. I mean, once they get into it, and I haven't figured out how to see any of the students' workspaces yet.
Yeah, I just poked around without any documentation. There's a couple of screens there, and there's a student, and there was something that I clicked that it basically loaded up their workspace. So I think if you poke around or read documentation, it shouldn't be hard. But what the Codio model I thought was every assignment we give them sort of a new workspace, and that has its own grader associated with it and its own, and might be pre-populated with the material that they need. And if we did that, that could have some benefits. And I planned to try it out last week, but we ran short of time, and it wasn't clear that we would have had to do research, because basically we want people to have their own repo associated with GitHub Classroom that eventually that they can push to. And I think Philip, the guy from Codio, said that was possible. I think he said that, but that would have taken research. And so all we do is I just create a new, have them create a new repo using GitHub Classroom, and then they just do a git clone command into their workspace, just like we did with Cloud9, and that's simple enough.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, since I'm starting from scratch, I have no background with Cloud9, so this was.
Yeah, I mean, it's all I'm saying is it's what you're doing now is basically set it up once, and then they just use that workspace throughout the semester. And I think there's good things about that. The only negative is if they screw up that workspace, by installing things they shouldn't or whatever, then sometimes we want to reset and start them from scratch.
Do you know how to do that?
I don't know, not offhand, but I would assume that you could create a new workspace in Codio the same way you did, for them, whether you delete their old one or just create a new one for them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's definitely, possible, and the advantage of this kind of environment that you can just pull the plug and start, always start from scratch without too much pain.
Yeah, I can see, I can get to where I get a list of students who have come into this class, but I haven't figured out yet how to see into any of their workspaces. So I
Let's see.
guess it's just poking around, and
Yeah,
I can talk to the guy online. I just sent him a note anyway. Have you noticed at all Codio losing contact with its back end?
meaning like funky things happen.
It just it comes back and says, well, it says contact has been lost. Do you
No,
want to reconnect?
but I haven't been working a lot. I mean, the few times I've been working Codio, I haven't noticed that.
Okay. Well, this just started, I think, over the weekend, so I don't know. Maybe it's here, but I tried it on a different browser and got more or less the same thing. So I will work that with the guy from.
Yeah, and definitely, please particularly interested if, I guess I would be getting complaints from students if this was pervasive, if any of them are doing work. But if you do notice anything like that, share it either in the Slack or in the email to let us, to give me a heads up. When I went into, do you want me to do like if I can do this, a screen share?
Yeah, sure.
Try doing that. This is not as interesting to you, perhaps, for people who are not using this, but at least you'll see. So
Yeah, I'm interested.
application. Oh, let me do that and that and that. Okay. So is it fair that you're seeing this now?
Yeah.
So I don't know, like I
I'm
said,
not.
I don't even know what the heck I'm doing. So let's pick
Okay.
let's pick this. So I clicked this. I don't remember clicking this before, but you click any of these things. But let's say I clicked that one, so that I just was looking at my students, and look at this, open students project. So now I'm in Amber Hunt's. I have a students list. Here's the course, whatever. So I got here and see here, it just says open students project.
Yeah, and what happens?
And it loads.
Okay.
Okay, but that's why I'm saying I just clicked around.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it seemed to work.
I got to that same screen, and then when I opened a student project, it just didn't do anything.
Right. Now you see here, see how these are the GitHub, the GitHub Classroom repos, which are named, with the way GitHub Classroom works, it names them with a hyphen and their GitHub username. So this is, I see that this is the workspace associated with Amber Hunt.
Oh, good.
Okay, and I can come in here and see the files, open up a terminal, and so forth.
That's nice, actually.
Yeah, I just did that and I can see that too.
Good. Okay. So
Great.
now I feel good that one productive and useful thing happened. In this,
So now you can get a job with Codio tech support.
There you go.
okay.
Hey, Richard.
Yeah.
How are you doing? Were you in the path of all that horrible weather?
Well, that's what. Yes, but we're pretty far inland, and although we got a lot of rain right around me, everything sort of drained
Yeah.
appropriately.
Right.
But the main impact on me personally was both classes being canceled for a number of days, which has both pluses and minuses. And
Sure.
as you see in the upper right of my screen, that literally is the damage to my house.
Yeah.
A little bit of water damage.
That's too bad.
But it's compared to what a lot of other people dealt with, it's
Yeah. I mean, it's terrifying, really, when you look at what happened.
okay.
Well,
So
I'm glad you're all right.
yep, me too. Okay. So anything else until next week?
No, I'm okay. I think I'll talk to you offline about seeing your test.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna go right into the Rails homework, which is scheduled to start Thursday, but I'll probably turn it on for them tomorrow unless I hear something else.
Okay. Here's the thing, though, and I will say is that have you worked through chapter 4?
I have read it, but I haven't worked.
Okay, so there is something. I mean, keep that in mind in your pacing and all. But going through chapter 4, just reading it is like reading it and doing it is a big difference, and both to me and also to the students. And the students are not the students are not going to do it if you just say, oh, read through this and work through it, unless you have like high quality students. They're going to do like what you did, Jay, is just read through it and say, oh, yeah, this all makes sense. Yeah. So that has some benefit. So keep that in mind.
Okay. Well, I'll look at your modification to the.
Yeah, and the Hartle tutorial, that is something, I mean, you can look at that first chapter. Remember, I just want to emphasize that I put that in place before the Sinatra homework was there. So there is some duplication in terms of their introducing them to Git. See, Hartle does a better job introducing them to Git. It would make sense for me to do that first.
Okay.
Of the introduction and heroic.
My students are all seniors, and they've all had a course where they used Git and they used Linux command line.
Yeah, and so that's why I'm saying the Hartle tutorial, I could look through that, but that is more skippable. It's the chapter 4 walkthrough that is stuff that they have not done, and that's something that you should think about encouraging them to do at the very least.
And where is the chapter 4 walkthrough?
Well, it's actually between chapters 3 and 5 in the textbook.
Okay.
It's literally
I mean
the textbook and you go to chapter 4, and chapter 4 as opposed to being an expository conceptual thing, it is partly that, but it is that in the context of literally issuing commands.
Yeah, it's meant to be worked through.
So that's why I call it the chapter 4 walkthrough, because it really is doing what it's like reading chapter 4, but really reading it. In other words, doing what it tells them to do.
Right. Doing the exercises in real time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have them do it in my class. I take a week, a classroom session, and I have them do it because like many of these things, I mean, I'll give this little bit of philosophy. Really, what the students want, so that they don't make mistakes, is here's a list of commands, and so they can issue exactly what command they have to issue, and they check it off, and they don't miss anything. And I know some people have compiled this, but I am for the students, but I'm reluctant to give that to the students, because once we give that, then all they're doing is issuing those commands. They're not looking and reading the explanatory text, and
Exactly.
they issue the commands and they don't know what they're doing or why, and they get 100 and so forth. So I actually deliberately make their life more difficult by saying, like, you got to read this carefully enough so that you see, you don't miss the commands, and in doing so, that has that, that associated benefit, but it also means that some of them will miss commands and need help.
When you have them do it in class, do you kind of lead them through it, or do you have them do it on their own and just
No, I have them do it on their own, and when they run into a snag, we come over and talk with them.
Okay.
Right.
Ideally, I try and set them up in pairs for this, fine, and that helps, so that, if they really take that seriously, it does help, because one person is looking and checking when they run into a problem. They can sort of more likely spot it for one another, but only about a third of the students take that seriously.
Okay. And you do that for one class or 1 week?
Yeah.
How long is your class?
2 hours and 45 minutes in theory.
Mine is an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, what I do,
different.
but you meet twice a week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I did is I requested to combine it into once a week meeting, which, if I had a small class and like sort of diligent students, they would come in, get set up, and there wouldn't be a problem. But there was so much work in pairing people up and getting like 76 people like seated and ready and laptops plugged in, that I felt that too much of the class was spent setting up and tearing down. And if they could just do it once a week, I felt that was more productive.
I don't have that freedom, I don't think.
Yeah, I didn't, I tried it and it worked. And so, I have an amenable scheduler that has been accommodating me.
Okay. And it also matters what the rest of the curriculum is scheduled for.
Oh yeah. It's not it could very easily not work out. But like, you'll see if you have smaller classes and more together students, they'll come in and work for their hour and 20 minutes, and that should be fine too. That's the way that's the way I used to do it too. I just did it as an experiment to combine them together, and it actually makes my life a little bit easier.
Sure. Yeah.
I'll try that. Maybe I'll start them tomorrow, because I kind of run out of things to talk about during the class, and I usually just have them work on their homework for the second part of the class.
Yeah, so that's it's up to you.
It's much easier for me with Armando giving the lectures.
Right. And the thing that you will want to do, though, is spend a little time doing, walking through at least the first few sections yourself, so you see what they're having to do, and at least you'll see what mistakes they might make.
Okay. At this point, they're better at this stuff than I am anyway.
Right. I understand. And so they can help help each other if they run into problems. But
I got one student who's actually working at Illumina and using Ruby and Rails, so I've made him my unofficial TA.
Yeah.
Although he's resisting that.
Really? That's too bad.
Okay. Well, thank you, Richard.
Okay, good.
I'll contact you offline about the
offline, online, however. Good. Okay. So David, good to sort of meet your name. And Rose, good to see you. And we'll hopefully next week get some idea about like what the real people are doing with the course with Sam and Armando and their plans.
Yeah. Hey, Rose, where are you?
Binghamton, New York.
Okay.
Right. New York.
Yeah, yeah. I looked at that. I was gonna say, all right, Richard.
Well, I'm a real New Yorker, for better or worse.
Yeah, well, you know, I am
New
too.
York City.
We're both from there.
Yeah. Okay. I will get on to my other work. This is just too much fun. Okay.
Oh,
I
yeah.
will, we'll be in touch, guys. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thanks so
Rich.
much, Richard. It's great
Bye.
to see you.
Yep. Ditto.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.